August 10th, 2021. The day he stole $600 million without leaving his room. It started with silence, not the silence of peace, the kind that comes just before a storm hits. A few lines of code pushed into motion. No alarms, no sirens, no breach alerts, just a transaction, and then another, and then everything broke loose.
The hacker who stole more than $600 million in cryptocurrency.
Polling Network said the amount of money hacked is the
$600 million of Ethereum.
At exactly 8:45 AM UTC, the blockchain began to bleed. Most people didn't notice. Crypto was always in motion, tens of thousands of transactions per minute. But hidden among the usual blur of wallet activity was something else. Something unnatural. One address, just a string of random characters, began pulling funds, millions at a time. It was precise, not fast, not messy, just surgical, calculated. This wasn't a smash and grab. It was something far more terrifying. It was someone who knew exactly what they were doing. And they were doing it in broad daylight. The platform was called Poly Network, a decentralized finance protocol, or DeFi for short. It wasn't a household name, but inside the crypto world, it was important. It let people move assets across chains. Ethereum to Binance, Binance to Polygon, and back again. Billions of dollars passed through it daily, quietly flowing across networks, like digital blood through the veins of DeFi. But on that day, the blood began to spill. 1 minute, everything was fine. The next, $273 million worth of Ethereum was gone. Then another $253 million on Binance Smart Chain. Then $85 million on the Polygon chain. Within minutes, over $600 million was gone, drained from user wallets, smart contracts, and Poly's cross-chain bridge vaults. Poly Network had no CEO, no central kill switch. That was the whole point. It was decentralized. But now, that very design was being used against it. The attacker wasn't brute forcing passwords or phishing accounts. He wasn't breaking into servers or planting malware. He'd found something else. Something much more valuable. A mistake, a vulnerability buried deep inside Poly Network's smart contract. The core code that governed how funds moved from one blockchain to another. It wasn't a bug, it was a logic error, and logic can be exploited. With one well-constructed sequence of calls, the attacker managed to trick the contract into thinking he was authorized to move funds he didn't own. The system believed him, because the code told it to. And in the world of smart contracts, code is law. But this time, the law had a loophole. The first person to notice was a blockchain analytics bot, a simple script that scanned for unusually large transfers. It flagged one transaction, then 5, then 40. The amounts were too large. The receiving wallet too new. The patterns off. It took 10 minutes for the data to spread. Crypto Twitter lit up. DeFi forums went into full alert mode. Influencers were screenshotting wallet balances, typing in all caps. Is Poly Network being drained? The transaction trail was open for anyone to see. That's the irony of blockchains. They're public, permanent. And when they're hacked, the world watches in real time. Poly Network's team scrambled to verify, but the damage had already been done. The funds weren't just gone, they were scattered across multiple blockchains. Hundreds of millions in stablecoins, altcoins, and wrapped assets were now sitting in a hacker's wallet, untouched, pristine, glowing like trophies. The question wasn't how it happened, not yet. The question was why. Who had done this? And more importantly, what would they do next? Because here's the thing. In traditional finance, stolen money can be frozen. Banks can call banks. Governments can intervene. In crypto, things move faster than trust, faster than law, and whoever had stolen these funds wasn't running. They were just sitting there, watching, The hacker didn't vanish. He didn't send the funds to tumblers. He didn't cash out to fiat. He didn't even try to hide him. In fact, he left them sitting in plain sight across 3 wallets. $600 million, unmoved, untouched, untouchable. It was like robbing a bank and then camping on the roof with a flag that says, "I did it." Why? Why steal hundreds of millions only to sit still? Some thought it was a stunt. Others believed it was just a test and a proof of concept. But the reality was even stranger. He wasn't stealing, he was waiting, and no one knew what for. Poly Network issued a statement, hastily written, posted on Twitter, a digital white flag. "Dear hacker, we want to establish communication with you. No threats, no legal warnings, just an open letter, a plea, because this wasn't a hacker you could catch. There was no IP address, no location. The wallets were anonymous, the funds untraceable, and the only person who could reverse the damage was the person who caused it. One anonymous figure now held more power than an entire blockchain protocol, and everyone was watching. Exchanges froze tokens. Tether blacklisted the attacker's USDT. Crypto media outlets scrambled for answers. Security firms issued postmortems, but the hacker remained silent, unmoving, calm, as if he was still deciding. And then a message appeared, not on Twitter, not in a forum, but inside the blockchain itself. A transaction sent with a memo. Ready to return the funds. Just 7 words tucked into a transaction on the Ethereum blockchain. No signature, no identity, just a quiet note written in the language of the machines. At first, people didn't believe it. Some thought it was a joke, but it wasn't. It was real. The hacker had spoken, and now the world had no idea what he would say next. The wallet still held the funds, hundreds of millions in various tokens untouched. But now, those wallets weren't just addresses. They were a conversation. Each day, the hacker sent small pieces of text embedded inside blockchain transactions. Each message was like a digital whisper, permanent, immutable, and strangely poetic.
"I didn't mean to cause panic. I just want to prove something. I'm not a typical hacker. I'm not interested in the money."
The crypto world was stunned. Hackers don't usually explain themselves. They don't apologize. They don't send poetic statements carved into the blocks of the blockchain itself. But this one did. He called himself Mr. White Hat. The name wasn't random. In hacker culture, white hats are the good guys. Security researchers, people who test systems to find flaws, but then report them, not exploit them. They're ethical, professional, legal, but Mr. White Hat, he had drained $600 million without permission, and now he was calling himself the good guy. Was it irony, or was he serious? Poly Network didn't care. They didn't threaten him. They didn't blame him. They leaned in. They embraced the name, and they began speaking to him, publicly. Thank you for your willingness to cooperate. We hope to work together to secure our network. Let's figure this out, together. Their messages were part desperation and part strategy, because they had no leverage. There was no way to force the hacker to return the funds. No legal route, no jurisdiction, no enforcement body, only negotiation. And it was all happening in front of millions of people. Twitter, GitHub, Etherscan, Discord. The entire crypto world was watching the first real-time negotiation between a hacker and a protocol in the open. And then he began sending the money back. At first it was small. A few 100,000 here, 1 million there, then 10, then 50. Each transaction was met with shock. People didn't know how to react. A hacker had just returned tens of millions of dollars, voluntarily. But it wasn't that simple. Each return was accompanied by another message.
"I trust the code, not the people. This exploit should never have existed. I'm just borrowing the money to teach you a lesson."
He didn't gloat. He didn't threaten. He lectured. He wanted them to understand what he had done. By the end of the week, the total returned had reached $500 million. Poly Network breathed easier. The community began celebrating. But one thing still remained. $33 million was still frozen. This last portion was sitting in a secure multi-signature wallet, a kind of crypto safe that requires a unique signature to unlock. Only one person held that signature, Mr. White Hat. And he waited. He didn't sign right away. He didn't respond to pleas. He didn't flinch at pressure. He let the silence grow. Poly Network kept messaging him publicly, but he didn't reply, not right away. He let the tension rise, and then, without warning, it happened. The signature went through. The wallet unlocked. The last $33 million flowed back into Poly Network's control. No message, no final boast, just closure. The heist was over.